I'm not afraid of AI taking over the world. I do am afraid that some people are going to use AI to take over the world.
Du lyssnar på Zeitgeist Sweden med mig, Thabo Motsieloa. En podcast om samtiden, samhället och livet. Nya avsnitt varje vecka där poddar finns. Stötta gärna podden genom att följa, dela eller lämna ett betyg på Spotify, Apple Podcast eller där du lyssnar. Det betyder mycket. Nu kör vi!
Hi, and welcome to Zeitgeist Sweden. Today we're going to speak about AI and the future of AI and the threats and also the benefits that we can gain from them. And our distinguished guest today is a professor responsible for artificial intelligence at University of Umeå. And Virginia Dignum, a big welcome. And you can also tell us about all the different chairs that you have seated yourself on.
Oh,
You're
thank you very
everywhere.
much. I'm everywhere, yes. Thank you very much. Indeed, I'm a professor of responsible AI at Umeå University, where I'm also leading the research group on AI policy, the AI Policy Lab. And I regularly work with the governments and international organizations around the issues of AI policy, responsible AI ethics, the governance of AI, and most recently, that type of work I have been doing with the United Nations, with UNESCO, also with the World Economic Forum, and other of such organizations.
And you just arrived to Umeå from India, from a summit.
Yes. Yes, yeah. So in India, there was last week the AI Impact Summit, which was convened by the government of India, bringing together many governments of the world, but also big tech industry CEOs and others, and lots, of course, of academia and the social society to discuss the impact of AI from and because it was in India, there was a big stress on the impact of AI on the global south.
This is like a new super tool, AI. This was the fourth year, if I got you right, that you had this summit.
From this summit, yes, but of course, AI has been around for 60 or 70 years.
Yeah. But what are the great movements that you had during these 4 years? Has the topics changed?
Yes, the topics has changed considerably. The first of these summits was in the UK 4 years ago. It was very much focused around AI safety. It was also the launch of officially of the UK AI Safety Institute, and a lot of the safety was kind of geared together towards the existential risk. So this idea that if we leave AI alone, it might go and decide autonomously to harm humanity. That was the focus there. Fortunately, from what I believe, it was good that the following summits were much broadly referring and focusing on the broadly impact of AI and mostly on the current impact of AI, which I think is a much more reasonable way to go than to talk about what AI is doing now, what AI is who AI is benefiting, who AI is harming at this moment, instead of discussing some kind of hypothetical and science fiction like type of future risks.
What are the greatest misconceptions when it comes to AI?
Oh, that's a very good question. I think that what I see happening is that a lot of people are seeing AI as something magic, something that happens to us. No one really know where it comes from and who is doing what and how it really works, but it is taking over our decisions, our interactions, our relations with each other. So it's a kind of a magic thing. And actually, we need to be very aware that even though many people are talking about AI as something like the weather, it happens to us. The only thing we can do is try to protect by taking an umbrella or a coat or go to the beach, depending on the weather predictions. But we cannot control the weather. That is the one of the narratives going around, but it's a very wrong one because AI is not weather. AI is an artifact that we people build, design, use, govern, distribute, deploy, and so it is something that we make. It's not something that happens to us.
But one of the fears that I hear when I speak to people and when I look at different kind of podcasts is that AI will eventually take control and supersede people, human beings, when it comes to all kind of professions and thinking, and also not only answering questions but also uh, holding an agenda of its own.
No.
Are these fears or are they
Uh,
reality?
it's mostly fears. It's mostly a narrative which is being propagated by the big tech, those that are at this moment gaining the most by the type of AI that we are using. It is wrong from many different ways. Firstly, I'm not afraid of AI taking over the world. I do am afraid that some people are going to use AI to take over the world, but it's a different thing and it's also a different way of addressing it than to give up to the idea that AI, some type of artifact that we build, somehow is going to grow some intentions, and with those intentions will supersede our authority. It is easy to speak in those ways, and is also very convenient for some to speak in those ways, because if we are afraid of those type of futures, we are less inclined to be concerned about what they are doing today, who they are harming today, and what kind of decisions they are taking today in terms of how AI is built, how AI is used, and how AI is governed. And I think that it's a dangerous narrative because it makes us forget the current state of things.
We have two ecosystems as I get it. Is the American, it's the Chinese that are driving a lot of the development in AI. Is that a correct assessment?
Yes, if you are concerning, if you are considering only the systems that are developed around this data-driven narrative, the large language models, the generative AI, the foundation models, yes, those two players are taking a disproportionate amount of space in the development of AI. But again, we need to understand that AI is more than a large language model. AI is different than generative systems. There are many other types of techniques, many other types of theories, many other types of applications, which are not necessarily the same as the generative AI and the large language models that we are using. Those are, however, much very large and very much. It's the ones that we see in our daily lives. The other types of AI are maybe much more hidden or invisible for most of us.
And which are the main categories of AI, from your vantage point, that you think that are important for us?
Okay, so of course, at this moment, the large language models are a huge and are taking a huge amount of space in the
In the
way that we
mind.
are developing in our minds as well. Those are the systems that we, all of us, interact with. But at the same time, we have, of course, the machine learning systems, those systems that learn patterns and that are able to use those patterns to guide their decision or guide some classification and interpretation of reality. There are other types of systems which are at this moment much less visible, which are so-called symbolic AI, those ones, the systems that are built on rules, that are built on understandings of the world according to some semantic understanding and not just the textual understanding of text. Those ones have been very, very popular until the beginning of the 2000s, are very complex to build, are very complex to maintain, are not very easy to reproduce from one place to another. And that's why we have seen nowadays that a lot of the development is gone into the data driven ones. However, the data driven ones are exactly as the name says, are based on data. Data is some type of information that we people decide on. We decide where to collect, what to collect, when to collect, how, what is going to be included on that data. The systems, typically the large ones, the large language models, go through the whole of the internet and collect all the textual and the image data that it's there. And it becomes very much dependent on the quality of the data. So bad data in gets to a bad system. But nevertheless, the capabilities of these systems are very, very impressive from the perspective of what we can gain in terms of the quick interaction with these systems.
Are they easy corruptible, the large learning models?
They are easily corruptible in different ways. They are corruptible in depending on the type of data that it's given. So the systems are basically, they work in two steps how to build this system. The first step, the first phase is the training phase, by which we provide a huge amount of data to the system until the system is able to make sense of that data. So imagine that we are building a system to identify cats. You provide it millions and millions and millions of pictures of animals. You tell the system, these are cats, these are not cats. And after a huge amount of interaction, the system will be able to identify the cats. In a very simple way. That is the training. Then later on, we are going to use the system in real life, and there we expect that the system is able to use a image that it never has seen before and still be able to determine this is a cat or is not a cat. So of course, the first corruption comes with the input data. If we only show the system black cat, the system will be very difficult to identify cats that are striped or mottled or white or whatever. So then the system has a much easier capability to learn or to identify images that are similar to what it has been done before. We see that, of course, with the example of the cats is not very dangerous, but we see that again and again in other types of systems, systems that are used in healthcare and medicine, which have been trained with for instance, data of adults, and then they cannot really say much about children, that have been trained with data of men, and then they cannot say much about women. Of course, racial issues come again and again. So it depends a lot in the first phase how representative the data is.
For
And
instance,
then,
no, sorry, continue, continue. Yes.
no, go on, go on.
For instance, if we talk about race, and we talk about different ethnicities, and the data has a lot of old facts from science, and those facts say that black people are less intelligent than white people.
Yep.
This will show in the outcome of the questions that you put to
Of
the
course,
large.
in principle, yes. Of course, we are dealing with huge amount of data, so it depends a lot on how much of that type of information comes, is present on the data, what comes out. But there are known cases. For instance, in the United States, there is a system called Compass, which is used to determine whether someone should get parole or not, someone who is in prison, and then they want to decide whether they should be paroled and be freed from prison before the end of the sentence. And they used historical data. And we all know that race is of huge influence in the decisions, the judicial decisions in the United States. So the data that they have gives a much more likelihood that people of African American descent will be considered more dangerous than people of white American descent, and therefore we see that coming out in the decisions of the AI system. someone which is of African American descent, which did, I don't know, some robbery of a shop with no previous convictions or whatever, is much less likely to be given parole than a white person which has several convictions, some of them violent and so on, just because of what is in the data.
And how can we safeguard against this kind of corruption? Because this was just one example amongst many.
So there is a lot of work being done on the fairness or the of this type of systems. It is well known, and it's something which nowadays there is quite a lot of effort to make sure that the data that we are using to train the system is representative of the population that is going to use that system. And therefore, there is work that can be done to clean the systems, to measure the quality of the the data sets that are used in the system. But still, there are always outliers, cases that never really appeared or appeared very little on the data, which remains a problem. So we need to be very, very vigilant. And if we feel that an and in Europe we have this right by the European law, if we feel that an AI system has given a not correct or a harmful decision, we can appeal for that. And this is something which we need to, all of us, to be aware that we are not just, uh, uh, we don't have to resign ourselves to the results of the AI system, but we can appeal, we can complain, we can point out where the errors are.
So there is a cultural bias by default.
That is because, I mean, the data that we provide these systems is data that we create in many, many ways, from many different, and we are prejudiced and we are biased ourselves. Also, it starts already by the decision which data, which characteristics are we going to include in the data. Are we including the length of the people, the weight of the people, I don't know, the color of the socks of the persons? Those are all decisions that we make. Some of them justified, some of them a bit ad hoc, but that will reflect on the data that we have. If we are not careful on understanding what is there on the data, why is that there, what were the other options that were not considered, we are limiting the results of the AI system from the data that it receives.
Because the impression for me as a average user of large learning models, sometimes I get the impression that what comes out is the truth. It's as if though God was speaking to me, and
Yes,
and I have to, yeah.
yeah, the systems are very much built to give you this impression. So the way these chatbots are built, they have two characteristics. One indeed is that it sounds very convincing, and at the same time, it sounds very friendly and agreeable to you. The system always will tell. If you ask it what time is it will say something like, "Oh, that's a wonderful question. It's really a brilliant question that you ask me, and I'm so happy that you asked me this question. You are a great person to ask me what time is it." So the system is built in a way to make us feel good and to make us be interested in maintaining the interaction. Because the more we interact with the system, the more the system is considered successful by the type of measures that the companies that develop the systems are using.
Is there a real risk that we will become slightly dumber because we will stop be use our critical thinking as a process? Is there a risk in that?
Yes and no. Yeah, I think that at this moment is all still very new to us. We are still very happy and very excited to use this type of systems. I think that at the same time, we are also all of us identifying and realizing that sometimes or very often the system is not exactly doing what you want it to do, or the answers are not very correct, or it is doing things in a very strange way, and the interaction is not really the most correct. So we might get dumber, and that is something which we really need to be uh, careful to identify. But at the same time, it might also make us more identify will make us more aware and more satisfied with those characteristics that we have that the system doesn't have. So making us appreciate more the unique human characteristics that we have that such a system will not never be able to have.
From where we stand today, when it comes to the large learning models, what are the benefits or what are your hope for the near future? I understand that it's difficult to make any longer projections, maybe.
Mm. So there is three main issues with these systems. One is that they are large. By being large means that they, by definition, will require a lot of data, and with this data comes the data centers, the computational centers, and all the costs that they bring in terms of energy, in terms of resources, and so on. So large is maybe not the best approach. Then the second problem is that they are about language, large language. Language is only one of the many ways by which we people express ourselves. We have many other ways of expressing ourselves, understanding each other, feeling and enjoying and appreciating our environment, which are not necessarily part of language. So, if you really want to build systems that are intelligent, artificial intelligent, then we need to be aware that there is more to intelligence than language. And then finally, these are models. Models are never reality. Models, there is a saying that says all models are wrong, some of them are useful. And that is very much the case with models. A model is a construct that helps us understanding a specific issue, like a small model of a house will help, or a drawing of a house will help the architect understanding what it needs to build. But it's of course not a house. The drawing is not a house. The the simulation is not the reality. So
Excuse
if
me,
we put
excuse me. Are you?
yeah,
Do you have papers in front of you, or something? Because I hear some
paper.
sounds. I hear some
Oh,
sounds.
no, no,
I
I
don't
have no
know.
paper here.
I don't know. Do you have a cat or a dog in your room? No. Maybe it's Mike. That sounds in the background. Okay, now it's lower. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't have no papers and no cats or dogs.
Thank
No,
you.
only
Thank
in the
you.
example. Yeah.
Now it
So
ended.
let's continue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so large brings with it a lot of resources that need to be reserved for the development of AI, which are resources that we cannot use for something else. So we have to make an option. The idea that language is a proxy of intelligence is also not correct. Intelligence is much more than language. And finally, a model is not reality. And if we teach AI based on a model that we provided of reality, the the world of AI will become that model and not the reality in which we are living. So we need to address all three issues at the same time. We need to look at smaller models, models that are more contextualized, more culturally adapted and representative, that are heterogeneous, so that are not only about language but might be about movement or about music or about all other types of ways that we interact with the world. And finally, we need to remind ourselves all the time that AI systems live in a digital environment. Those systems don't really exist in our world, and that digital environment is not necessarily the same as the world in which we live.
That's one of the problems that I see when I look at social media. We have the reinforcement of what our own beliefs, and we get into echo chambers. So my own kids in their room, they can live a separate life from me, although we live in the same flat, because they all the time communicate with people who have the same point of views. Uh, Will will these large learning models bring us closer, or will the divide increase?
I'm afraid that they might bring an even bigger divide, and not only a divide, but also a normalization of a specific type of identity. These systems, because they are large and need to be large, will much more naturally represent and embed the English American speaking culture than the Sami culture of the north of Sweden, because there is not enough data and text and language in the Sami, recorded in the Sami communities, or in some indigenous languages in Africa or in India or so on. So the systems will normalize an average type of person, an average type of environment, an average type of interactions that are not necessarily the same ones as we have.
That's worrying.
It can be
Because
worrying.
it
uh,
can have a political impact also as well, and a social and a cultural impact.
Of course, and that those are the things we need to be very aware and very mindful of. It is like, I don't know, wherever in the world we go, we probably can find Coca-Cola or McDonald's or this type of interactions, and everybody finds it normal in their environment. It is not that we shouldn't have access to this type of possibilities, but it should not be something which replaces our own lived experience, that replaces our own specific identities and our cultures. So what is important is to find the middle ground between the enormous ability of social media or AI or the internet, by what it is, to make us all able to interact with whoever in the world, in whatever language they live or environment they live, and we can still interact, which is great for getting us more understanding of each other in principle. But at the same time, it shouldn't be something which replaces our own difference, that doesn't replace our cultures and our lived experience. So there is a fine balance between both, and we need to be very careful and very watchful that one is not replacing the other.
Are these questions that you address when you have these summits, you and your
Yes,
colleagues?
definitely. Yeah, yeah. So there is a very large, so the whole field of responsible AI or ethical AI is exactly about the idea that we need to address the differences, we need to address the values. By why are we building these systems? It's not, it cannot, it shouldn't be only for the economical benefit of a very few group of people, but we should be really building these systems for the benefit of as many persons as possible. So, what makes a system successful is not necessarily what the big tech will want it to be. And we need to address both. So, we need to talk about values, we need to talk about um, cultural difference, we need to talk about regional difference, we need to talk about gender and ethnicity and other types of also age. The system should be able to be as beneficial for older as for children, and taking into account that older people and children interact differently with the system, also have a different capacity of understanding. So those are core issues in the discussions that are being taken place, for instance, at United Nations or UNESCO, and also in these meetings like the one which we were in India last week.
And to what extent do you use AI as a help in order to make
Um,
uh, to
it
solve this problem?
it's that's a very good question. I use it Sometimes, mostly when I need to write or to read something in Swedish. I do can be. I'm able to speak a little bit of Swedish and read and write in Swedish. But if I need to be quick, then I do use AI to translate it for me or to summarize a document that I need to know about for a meeting, which is in Swedish. So I do use for those issues. I don't typically use it for generating pictures or those type of things, but exactly for a quick. But again, there it is important. I would not be able to use it to translate to Chinese or to read from Chinese because I have no idea of what is there in the original text or in the generated text. And then I would be feeling very uncomfortable to use the Chinese that AI system had provided to me. In Swedish is different because I do understand a bit, so I can get an understanding that the system is close enough to what I understand it, but it really benefits and speeds up the process a little bit.
And you being Dutch also, which is close to Sweden when it comes to culture,
Yes, yeah, so
is
and it makes it easier because then if the system really comes with a very strange translation, am able to realize, no, this is completely out of topic. Something is wrong here, and that I can do in Swedish, but I cannot do in Chinese or in Arabic or languages that I don't speak at all.
one scare that I feel that I and I think a lot of people have. It's this duality between China and the United States, or should I say, the collective West, when there are different systems for the internet, and also as you were saying, it's different cultural contexts. There are different ideals. Uh, how can these two coexist? When it comes to regulations, do I have dialogue with for example, China, or are they developing their system separately and we our system separately?
Uh, Yes, very good question. There are many layers to this. And those layers are not so different in AI than they are in other types of technology or in other types of societal interactions. We do have different laws in Sweden than what there are in the Netherlands or in China or in the United States. That is something which at international level is accepted, is recognized, and is not a strange thing. Each country have their laws, their ways of implementing those laws, the ways of enforcing those laws. Those are national prerogatives and can and should be decided at national level. There are, however, some higher level of agreement. For instance, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, to which all countries, or most countries except the United States, have agreed and signed for, which gives us a kind of a basic ground which we know that at least we can expect or we can hope that all countries will somehow at least be aware that something as the human rights exist, and they are in different ways mindful of those human rights. Is the same in AI. So each country will develop AI in different ways, will use AI in different ways. As long as we know that those ways are that there is some kind of national understanding of what they are doing, some type of national guidelines to what they are doing. They don't need to be the same. They can be different, but we'll be able to, like, if you go abroad, you know that electricity sockets might be different. You take an adapter with you and you are able to charge your telephone, even if you are in China or the United States or so on. The same with driving. We do know that different places of the world have different approach to driving. Some drive in the left, some drive in the right. They have different speed limits. Some of them they are more mindful of following the rules of traffic. Other ones they don't really follow so much. But we do know that there is some type of agreement there which makes it possible that I can cross a road in India. Maybe not in the same way that I cross a road in Umeå, but more or less how those things work. So we don't need all to do exactly the same in order to understand each other. Where it gets more problematic is the current, mostly the current approach in the United States, in which says, no, we don't want no regulations whatsoever. We don't want no guidelines whatsoever. That is dangerous in many, many different ways. Not only dangerous for us as the users, it is also dangerous for the companies that are trying to survive in that field. If you have no rules whatsoever, you don't really know what you are building is going to be trustworthy, is going to be accepted. So you are putting a lot of investment without having any basic guarantees that what you are doing is useful in one way or another. And moreover, it is also dangerous because it will benefit the ones who have the biggest power. So in this case, the big tech in the United States, because in a sense, they don't want to have no rules. What they want is that they determine the rules. And they determine them based on their own interests and their own financial profit ambitions and so on. So that rules are different, it's fine, and we accept, and there is no need to expect that will be a one size fits all type of rule to fit all of the AI or all of the internet. That there is no rules at all, that is dangerous for the users, is dangerous for the developers, is dangerous for the governments, because the governments will also have nothing to say, and it only benefits a very small group of billionaires that already are disproportionately
Powerful.
benefited.
Yeah.
Powerful, yes.
We have this Greek politician and economist, Yanis Varoufakis, who's
Yeah,
speaking about
yes,
the techno-feudalism, and he sees it as
exactly.
a
Yeah,
big democratic threat.
it
Um,
is. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
in what way do you feel that it's threatening?
So it is one of the issues that we are seeing now is that we there are very few viable alternatives. We have left these systems grow too big. The big tech, mostly the United States, at least here in Europe, the ones which affect us the most are the ones developed in the United States. We don't really have a viable alternative. Not only for AI, but we also don't have, and the discussion, especially since last year and the new administration in the United States, have really brought forward the realization that independently of AI, in the digital world, we are fully dependent on technology that is developed in the United States or China. We don't have web browser that is not from the United States or from China. We don't have email server that it's not from one of these companies. Most of our uh, public service run on Teams or on Microsoft or on probably we are using some type of American technology to be talking to each other at this moment. I don't really know where Riverside comes from, but is most likely American. So we don't have alternatives. And that is, I think, the biggest threat at this moment. And that is then the feudalism. Even if we would want to do something different, we are not sufficiently independent in order to do that. And I think that that is an issue that here in Europe we need to take much more seriously. And I see that in the last, like I say, in the last year, there has been much more efforts from different countries, but also from the European Union in general, to at least being aware that this is a problem.
One challenge with AI is that it's very, very expensive industry, and it also takes a lot of capacity when it comes to electricity. You
Yes and
can
no.
you can correct me, but what I'm thinking of is that it feels as if we're in the backwaters in Europe. We have these
Oof.
two big driving forces, and today, especially when Europe and United States have started to separate a little bit from each other, it leaves us in a vulnerable spot. So could you reflect on
Yes,
that?
it leaves us in vulnerable spot, and that spot comes from lots of things, not only from AI. That AI is very expensive and requires a lot of power and energy and so on, is partially true only. It is true if we only consider the current approach to AI, which is developed these huge monolithical systems which require all the data of the world and all the computing capability of the world to run. There are alternatives. I often talk about this, or I compare this current alternative or current approach to the Play-Doh. You know, this game, this plasticine, which you buy it in different colors, but you put it all together, you create a bigger and bigger ball. But as you need it, you will lose the color, you will lose the shape, you will lose the different shades that came out of there. You just end up with this huge ball that it's not no shape and no color anymore. That is the AI that we are using nowadays. We had to put all data together, and by putting it together, we kind of dirty it. We lose the color, we lose the difference, we lose the opportunities because we are putting it all together and treating it all in the same way. There is an alternative, going back to children plays, which is the Lego alternative. If you think about the pieces of Lego, they come in many different shapes, in many different colors. You can put them together. They never lose their shape and their color, but they all fit together. So if we go, and there are technologies, there are techniques, there are theories, there are methods by which we can develop AI in a much more modular and separate way. We can develop small pieces of AI, and then what we need, and at this moment we don't have yet, but it's not impossible, what we need is to develop a way to bring those little pieces together. To build each of these little pieces, the small models that I was talking before and that many people are addressing, we don't need to have all the data of the world, and we definitely don't need to have all the computing capacity of the world. Many of these systems will be able to run in your laptop or even in your telephone. Uh, if we have this opportunity to bring them together, and we do need to create the interfaces and the connectivity between all these pieces. Again, the adapters for our electricity devices when we go travel around. Then we have an alternative to AI, which is heterogeneous, is inclusive because everybody can do it, is much more sustainable, and more importantly, enables us to maintain the diversity of cultures and languages and knowledges and opportunities that the current approach is not.
This is what Virginia says. But are your colleagues
Not
in
only me,
it?
there are many people who say the same thing.
Yeah, that was actually what my question. Because if you look at Europe, you have India. We also have South America. I mean, the world is big. Do we have any leverage when we discuss these issues? Because as you said, the big tech in the United States, they're so big, and they're also quite interbred with the government as well. So what kind of
For a
leverage?
part, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is that they have a lot to lose. They are the ones who invested in this huge infrastructure with the data centers and the computing centers and all making those things bigger and bigger and bigger, putting all the data more and more and more together. So if we come up with an alternative which is much smaller and much cheaper and much simpler, they will lose the power that they have. They invest on these things. They have to convince us and to make sure that we are going to pay for the investment that they made. And
You
in a
wrote.
sense,
Yep. So sorry. Continue.
what we are giving in again and again to their power by accepting that there are no alternatives. AI is not inevitable, and definitely the current approach to AI is not the only one possible. It's not even the best. Technologically or theoretically, is not the best. It is the one in which the most investment ever, as far as I understand, has put. So there is a lot to lose by those very few that invested hugely on this approach. And that is what making us hostages of their approach to AI.
Uh, Bad actors.
Yes.
How can we safeguard that everybody works in compliance with the rules and regulations that you and your colleagues put together? And bad actors, what kind of bad actors should we look out for?
So definitely, when we talk about bad actors, we have to look for people, not for AI systems. The AI system will do what people will tell or use them for. Of course, it is a very powerful weapon if you want, but it's still a weapon that we are going to manipulate. The power, the decision, the intentions are ours. So the bad actors, and there are always bad actors, unfortunately, are going to be there, are there already. But we need to look at bad actors much more on the human and in our society than to tra- change the perspective to expect that AI itself is going to be the bad actor. So that is one. How can we guard against bad actors? That if I knew, if society knew, we probably would be in a much better place than we are. It has been always since the history started. There are always bad actors. There are always those that abide by the rules and those that
Yeah,
don't.
of course. But
So it's not something which changes, unfortunately, with AI. Uh, I think the only thing which really can guard us against bad actors is education, is opportunity. If you have, if you are educated, if you understand what you do, if you have opportunities to realize things within the societally accepted way, then I would believe, but maybe I'm too naive, but I would believe that that would create the way to address bad actors. But unfortunately, I think bad actors will always be there.
one of the fears is, of course, that with these systems, you can reach so many people so fast so that
Yeah.
the impact of a bad actor can be vast.
Yes, and that we have seen with all the technological developments, they have been increasing the and enlarging the impact of bad actions. Whereas in the Ages, war was waged from person to person, so you had to go into the battlefield and fight each other in a one-to-one issue. We have seen that technology, be it airplanes or cars or whatever, has created always the opportunity, unfortunately, to extend and to enlarge our capacity to do bad. It also enlarges our capacity to do good, but unfortunately, both go together. And it is somehow very tempting, it seems, for some actors to use technology to really do the wrong thing.
Mm. If we look at our current situation and a couple of years ahead, one of the biggest issues people have with AI is that I'm going to lose my job. Is that is it a correct fear? Is it does it carry any reason, or is it just fiction and
Yes, I
fantasy?
believe yes, but again, it's never a pure yes and no. If you look at the jobs of your grandparents or your parents or your great grandparents, they had different types of jobs than what we have now. So since especially since the industrial revolution, uh, changes in the labor capabilities and the labor necessities have changed enormously. I believe that AI will again create another step in this development of labor capabilities will require other types of functionalities, other types of professions, other types of tasks than the ones we are doing today.
But can you foresee
Again,
any of those stuff?
yes, I think so. Some of the tasks we are already seeing are the tasks that are necessary to keep AI running, to
Yep.
maintain the infrastructures, to maintain the correctness of what these systems are doing or not, to maintain the development of these systems by collecting the data, by feeding the data to the system, and so on. So those are all kind of the ones we already have seen those type of jobs appearing. There will be also, I believe, much more um, necessity for those typically and intrinsically human interactions that AI is not providing. The care jobs, the education, the tutoring, the mentoring, those one on one relationship jobs, we still will need them. Uh, Other types of jobs that we probably are going to see much more in the future is at the level of the strategic design of putting all this together. So, how to combine the different capabilities of AI, how to orchestrate between what is typically and intrinsically human and what can be done by AI
But
systems.
that sounds
So,
like wonderful for you and and a small group
not
of
necessarily,
the
I mean,
population.
I will
Stupid
be
guys like me.
I don't know. I will be retired by that time, so for me, it doesn't matter anymore. But I think that actually I'm an engineer, a computer scientist. There is where a lot of jobs will be lost. What we will need is the humanities, the people who are able to address the philosophical questions of this time, that are going to be able to understand our past, our societies, and so on. So the humanities and the social sciences will be much more relevant, maybe, than the technology, because we do already now have systems that can program themselves. So computer scientists maybe will not will have definitely a different type of job than what we have now.
Uh, so how at what pace are we moving? Uh, I understand that it can be difficult to pick out numbers, but if we look 10 years ahead, will we have a lot of people that have lost their jobs?
I it's very difficult to give any numbers. Yes, jobs will be changing. They are changing now, and they will be changing consistently in the next 5, 10 years. The best way we can address that is to be flexible and able to learn different skills and different capabilities as we go. So not expect that the job that we start that we were trained for when we were 20 will be the job that we'll have when we are 40 or 50 or so on. So this flexibility, which is intrinsically human, machines are much less flexible than we are. That is an important one to have. That things are going to change. Yes, they are changing since I was born, and like I said, the jobs my grandparents and parents had are not the jobs that people still have today. Bank employers or typists or farmers as well. Those jobs are don't exist in the same way today than they existed at that time. So be preparing for change and be flexible to adapt to different tasks. And maybe a job in itself will not completely disappear, but a lot of the tasks of what we are doing as part of our jobs will change.
And that will, of course, also make a great difference in our culture, I guess, because many
Yes,
people have invested a lot in their professions, both when it comes to education, but also the skills at work. And suddenly they're obsolete and they have to pick up some other kind of vocational Uh,
Yeah. That's what I say. The flexibility to change, that's the important one. And learn how to learn is a very important skill to have because that will enable us to continuously learn other things. But at the same time, I believe that we will have much more, and that might be a blessing or a disgrace. We will have more time, well, more free time. A lot of jobs and a lot of things will be done by the machines. We have already more free time now than 50 years ago or 100 years ago. And having free time can be great, but at the same time, if we don't really have ways to channel that free time in some useful, meaningful ways, it can be also very dangerous because then people will get.
Virginia, I'm 64, so free time is soon knocking on my door. And when you're young, you're looking forward to all the free time. And now, when as I come closer and closer to it, it's like,
Mhm,
what am I going to do when I'm going to become a pensioner? Oh, that might be boring. So it's dual. And it's also when people ask me, "What are you doing?" And I have my podcast. I work with the training people. I
mhm,
work as a
mhm.
moderator, and I know that maybe in a couple of years it's going to be, I don't do that much. And
Yep.
the way people perceive each other has been very based on what you have, what kind of work you have, a profession. So for me, it means that things are going to change radically and at a
Yes.
very high pace.
Yeah. That's true, and I'm in a similar age, so I understand fully your point. But maybe when I talk about free time, it's also in terms of the length of the working week. We might move to a 3-day working week or a 4-day working week, which means that all of us, the younger and the older, will have more days, free days during the week than what we have now. And if we don't find meaningful occupations or hobbies or things to really entertain ourselves meaningfully, that might be a danger because people, if you are bored or if you have nothing to do, the likelihood that you're going to do strange and mess up, it's bigger. So we do need to, as also as society, starting preparing for that.
Yes, and that's the next question. Do you feel, because you meet politicians in your job, you feel that the politics uh, that they're ready to make these adjustments, because a lot of these changes will also have an impact on social welfare, on how we structure our societies. Maybe we have to build our flats and our the areas where we live in a different configuration to accommodate these changes. Are the politicians on top of the game, or are they looking at other things?
Ooh, very important question. Maybe the short answer is no. Most of them are not really aware of these issues. Unfortunately, in many places, politicians are very much guided or driven by their election cycle. So they have a very short, long-term vision. It is only until the end of their term. That is, it is making or creating problems in the development because some of these changes are changes that need to be further than the 3 or 4 or 5 years that they have in their political
Cycle, yeah.
window
Yeah.
cycle. So I think that we need to have a much broader discussion of the the changes that need to be done in long term because the long term that we need these changes is much longer than the political cycle the politicians are living in.
And this becomes a stress test for the democratic countries, right? Because countries
Yes.
like, for instance, China, who can gather so many resources and allocate them for a very long span of time, they have another preparedness.
Exactly. Exactly, and I think that our democracies really need to move and to step up in terms of we have changed a lot the democratic process from the 60s and the 70s here in Scandinavia as well, in which there was this really social democratic approach to welfare, to work and to benefit to work for the common benefit has been changed more and more to a very short term than very short sighted approach. So we do need to change our democratic institutions, not by creating dictatorships who can determine forever what is coming to happen by the means of their authoritarianism, but really to create a benefit for democracy that is extends further than the election cycle, and that is a challenge, and that is a challenge that I think we really need to address very quickly. Not just because of AI, there is many more issues which need that capability from our politicians.
We're still going to close this very interesting talk. I love speaking to you. But people talk about AGI and superintelligence. Could you please define these two different variants for me?
Okay, so there is a lot, like in every other point of AI, there are many ways to understand it, but the simplest one is that an AGI system is a system that will have cognitive capabilities similar to the one of a person, and a super intelligent one is a system that substantially extends the cognitive capacities of a person. So those are the simple understanding of it. The more, let's say, political understanding of it is that the big tech is using these concepts as a weapon, if you want, to keep them in power, because they keep telling us we are going to build these things. We need all these investments because we need to build AGI, and AGI becomes their, let's say, their reason of existing and their motivation to be allowed, in their views, to do what they need to do by whatever ways. But if we look at the definitions exactly as they are, and I do that in the book that I just published, came out a week ago, uh, being more intelligent than one person, it means that we already have AGI since ever. With the two of us are more intelligent than each one of us. So collective intelligence is, in a sense, AGI, is a system, a combination of entities that becomes more intelligent than each one of us. So again, if we really look at it from a perspective of responsibility, a perspective of participation and inclusion, we need to start thinking about AGI much more as a way to enable and to enlarge our collective capabilities than that this idea that we are going to create one God and this God is going to solve all our problems for us.
Because one way of thinking about it is that, oh, that's wonderful because then I have all these things that are difficult today will be solved. But the other way of thinking it is that I'm going to be enslaved, and I'm also going to become lazy and just become dumber and dumber.
The idea that we will be able by miracle to build something that's going to solve all our problems for us is like someone else, and I forgot now the name, has said before, means that we don't understand our technology, but we definitely also don't understand our problems. There is not this easy way to wave a magic wand and get our problems to go away. They are much deeper, much more complex, much more than just the cognitive problem solving capabilities of a system than what these AI systems can do for us. Indeed, if we get to a situation in which someone willed this God and that this God is determining for all of us what we need to do, then that organization, that person, that entity has achieved the situation in which all of us indeed are the slaves of that thing. That's definitely not what we want, and therefore we need to talk in a much broader way about what AGI means, what superintelligence means, and in a way that it enlarges our own collective capabilities and not replace it by something else. Because the moment we replace it, someone is controlling that replacement.
Yeah, that's very. It's interesting times. You've been at this profession since 2004. Am I right?
Are we?
Now you froze. Virginia, can you hear me? Something happened. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Yeah,
Okay.
it was an
Yeah.
hiccup. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
It froze. No, but you've been working with these questions for at least 20 years, right?
40.
40 years. Gosh, you look so young. No, but
Yes, I've been working all my professional life in the questions related to AI, from developing systems to reflecting on the impact of these systems. It has been my career. Yeah.
when you look back at where you started, could you ever imagine that we would be at this place at this time?
Yes and no. So the very first meeting on AI, that's even much before I was starting working on that. The people who organized that meeting, they organized it under the impression that they would need 10 weeks to build AI. That was in 1956. Uh, when I started using AI, and that was the time of these symbolic models, these models which would be representing the rules of reasoning that we would have, there was also a revival, a summer or a hype like now, in which people believed that those systems would be very soon very complete and able to do a lot. And we have seen these ups and downs in AI, the winters and the hypes coming in different times. So I know from the time I've been working that at least two or three of these winters have happened. And every time then it goes down and people think, yeah, it's all
Lost.
useless and nothing will come out and it's all a hoax. Then after that, after some time, another hype comes. We are now in one of the highest hypes that have ever happened. But similar types of excitement have happened in the past.
Your book, you mentioned your book, The AI Paradox.
Yes.
Could you give a brief description for me and our viewers? Because I looked for your book, but I couldn't find it.
Okay, it is only out since a couple of days.
Yeah.
I think that now, in Sweden, it will be a couple of bookshops which will have it, but I believe that Bocus online they sell it, and other online booksellers are selling it. But I'm not really sure about how the publisher is organizing that. But anyway, the AI paradox discusses exactly this type of issues. The main paradox that I start from is the paradox that the more we develop AI systems that are more and more capable, the more we realize that are unique human capabilities that are not yet part of the system. So one of the paradox that I discuss is an old definition of AI from 40 or 30 years ago, which says that AI is what AI cannot do yet. So the moment that we solve the problem, we move to the next one, and it's a kind of
Mhm.
a moving target in which we always realize now we got what human intelligence is, just to understand that actually there is more to it than what we can put in our model.
It's like
So
chasing the
a lot of
rainbow.
yes, it's the exactly is the pot at the end of the rainbow, and that is good because that is what keeps us moving, and also which keeps us the uniqueness of being humans really relevant, because we are the only ones which can do it.
Mhm. Okay, Virginia. I guess maybe I'll call you some more time as things develop because things are moving
Sure,
so very rapidly. Uh, Thanks a
welcome.
lot for all the wisdom. Is there something that you think that I and our viewers and listeners should carry with us from this topic?
I think the most important is to realize that AI is not magic and that we, at the end of the day, are the ones who need to determine what we are going to do with it, good or bad. But it's our tool to use.
And with those words concluded, thank you very much, Virginia Dignum, for all your wisdoms and good speed.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.